Can you imagine a character that uses the power of destruction itself, harvests the power of gods in their spare time, and a hidden technique that even erases time so that they can never be defeated ever? Okay, you see, ever since I made my ultimate anime protagonist here, I kind of felt like I've had this hole in my chest. I mean, how could I make the ultimate hero but not give them the ultimate villain to fight as well? So today I'm finally gonna be able to fix that mistake and fill that hole by trying to build the most broken bad guy I could come up with in anime history. And I'll do this by giving them the most degenerate motives, the worst character traits ever, and most importantly, the 10 most evil abilities in anime I could possibly find. But I also want to point out that not every ability on here that I've picked is exclusively a villain's as well, because sometimes heroes actually have truly evil powers that they then just use for righteous causes. And so after spending literal weeks trying to draft and puzzle together these powers and these character traits, let me introduce you to my most evil and also my proudest creation yet, 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗜𝗠. Dante here is a young gang member with dreams of becoming the world's greatest mafioso. He wants to rule the world's criminal underworld with an iron fist, but first he does need to pick up his car from the auto body shop and
I shall become the world's greatest gangster. Just you wait.
Oh, look at that. It looks like he just got hit by a train. Wait a second, that might actually be a good thing because it's now sending him to another world, and in this new anime multiverse, he shall become the greatest villain of all time. Now to do this, he will need to take over a bunch of universes, defeat a bunch of villains and good guys, and use his powers to steal their abilities as well. And how exactly is he supposed to do that? Well, it is all thanks to his new reincarnated body, the dreaded demon slime from that time I got reincarnated as a slime, a favorite of this channel. Now, why did I really choose this? And I gotta admit, I was really struggling to decide what the greatest villain body could actually be, since every option had a bunch of crazy benefits actually. Like say, making him a member of Frieza's race or a bio-android like Cell from Dragon Ball here would have given him truly insane potential, but that is something that most broken anime races kind of could give him, and it's a little bit generic. And I then thought that maybe something like the Chimera Ants from Hunter x Hunter could be a great option, but then I remembered that Meruem here couldn't even handle being nuked. What a baby and like a weak loser. So my character is gonna need to, you know, slay gods, and he can't be like destroyed by a nuke or something weak like that. And so I was kind of left with the best option, it turns out, the body of anime's strongest evil god, Rimuru Tempest. Now remember, even though yes, he is technically a good person, his unique skill and body are pretty inherently bad. And so they do fit surprisingly perfectly into my criteria for this list. Really gotta say, I did know this was a done deal after I remembered one of my favorite and one of the coldest moments in all of anime, the harvest ritual from the Slime series. This was the moment where Rimuru himself admitted that the world he was in made him a lot more ruthless and cruel, and that is, of course, thanks to his monster form. And I was actually stumbling across the scene by accident, which inspired me to give my greatest villain Dante this exact power so he could become the ultimate demon god himself. Now, if you aren't all about that slime life like me, let me explain why this power is busted, even though I made a whole video about this. This demon slime has the unique skill 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗜𝗠, which can consume, well, anything, granting the user access to that power or whatever he's eaten. Like, if he eats a sword, he can use magic to make that sword. If a wizard casts a 5th level fireball on him, well, suddenly Dante will have access to a really mighty inferno blast of his own that he can just use freely. And most importantly, if he eats his enemy, he will gain access to their bodies, powers, and pretty much everything else.
In this new body, I will become the god of this world.
So I hope you can see why this power is going to be pretty important for Dante's rise, as his best chance at becoming the worst villain pretty much relies fully on this ability. You know, the way I see it, if you want to become the worst, you kind of have to consume the worst as well. I don't know, there's just something so wicked and disgusting about literally devouring the worst characters across fiction, stealing their powers. I love it. And that's why Dante's real goal is harvesting the gods of anime anime to gain all of their powers. But before we can actually have our guy here eat chaos demons and gods of destruction, he's gonna need to hop over to the One Piece universe and eat this old man, Monkey D. Garp. Wait a second, let me just grab you and put you over here. All right. Good. And there you got it. Great. He's on Beehive Island now and can eat this old man, gaining access to his second power, Conqueror's Haki. Oh, good save, Manu. All right, I can hear some of you wondering now, but Manu, why choose this power out of all the broken One Piece powers out there? There's a ton to choose from. And let me just say, if you ask that question, you probably aren't that big of a One Piece fan, but don't worry, I'm kind of a One Piece expert, one might say. It is without a doubt one of my favorite pieces of fiction, and so I knew I had to give Dante the strongest power in the series objectively. A power greater than any devil fruit out there, because sure, Blackbeard's Darkness Devil Fruit is edgy and powerful, but Dante already outscales its ability canceling powers by just using 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗜𝗠. And with his Demon Slime body, a power literally capable of shifting his body into any shape or size he wants, I kind of felt like there was no real point in giving him something like a Logia fruit ability, like the evil Marine Admiral Akainu's Magma fruit here. So really, from a Devil Fruit standpoint, that kind of only left a zone user like Kaido's Dragon Fruit, or I guess whatever Imu's demonic abilities are here, but even those pale in comparison to having incredible willpower in One Piece. And that's actually just a canon fact that Kaido has confirmed, but this of course isn't my One Piece channel, so it's my job to tell you why this power is actually broken. For starters, having strong Haki just lets you straight up cancel out Devil Fruit powers. It doesn't matter if his enemy is a weirdo whose power is turning into an egg, or becoming the literal sun god that can control the universe itself, strong advanced Conqueror's Haki will always win. And that's, by the way, also why I made him absorb Garp specifically, since he has some of the best displays of Haki in the entire series. And also quickly, for those One Piece fans of you that think I should have maybe had him eat someone like Shanks, you're not wrong. However, at this point in the series, Shanks literally seems invincible, meanwhile Garp is old and, at the time of recording this, in prison. Plus, I kind of remembered that when Rimuru absorbs things with 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗜𝗠, his ability stealing and transformation powers account for power differences and give him the strongest version of that power. And so Dante would end up getting God tier Haki even though he's eating an old man past his prime, basically getting the best version of Garp here. Okay, but of course I also have to talk about one of the coolest reasons that I chose Conqueror's Haki particularly as a power, because this power also lets Dante wipe out hundreds upon thousands of people with weak wills that are around him just by opening his eyes and kind of showing dominance. To me, this is without a question one of the coolest and coldest powers of all time, and I had to give it to Dante here so he could flex on all the haters.
The color of the Supreme King, you say? Yes. I shall make everyone bend to my will.
And also just take care of fodder pretty easily without, making too much of a mess. I can kind of just picture it right now. Supreme Darkness Ruler Dante Melis walks out into the center of Tokyo, and with his incredible black and red lightning, the sign of a strong conqueror, by the way, he just knocks out the entire city of Tokyo. But you know what's worse is that after he does that, he then literally goes and kicks some sand into a baby's face and tells them that they're really ugly. I mean, God, you're really evil, Dante, but it could be worse because you could have something like a weird hand fetish like your next victim here. And since I just said the word fetish, yeah, that's right, it is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure time, everyone, because I knew that this time around I just had to give a character a stand, and after really thinking long and hard about it, I kind of came to the conclusion that the most evil stand power for Dante would be Killer Queen, which I understand might seem completely insane on the surface. I mean, when I first drafted up the list of powers I used for this video, I was kind of certain that Dios Dawardo, or Diavolo's King Crimson, would definitely take the spot here, right? But then I actually remembered that Pucci's mate in heaven is incredibly broken too, resetting entire universes. So how did I settle on this one instead? Well, for starters, I love cats. Actually, give me a second here. Oh, as I was saying, I love cats, and turns out that they're actually one of the most evil animals out there, since they enjoy killing small rodents for fun. And yes, with no, not over there. You're evil, huh? Are you evil? No, actually not. Anyways, though, with that in mind, Killer Queen and its cat-like features was an absolutely done deal. Isn't that right? Now, obviously, though, that's not the only reason. I also realized his powers were actually the most broken out of any JoJo stand out there because Killer Queen simply cannot be beaten. It's a cat after all, huh? Good job. Yeah. All right, there you go. That's because it has 3 different bombs, all of which help the user, in this case Dante, eliminating all of their targets. With bomb transmutation, anything that Killer Queen touches becomes a bomb. Then the stand can activate them, exploding the target or item, and this power also works on stand users as well, meaning that even the most powerful enemies can be damaged by these internal bombs. As I was saying, this of course also means that Dante has to touch his target, so it has a range limit. That's where his next bomb, Sheer Heart Attack, comes into play though. Because this heart-seeking remote bomb can be used in addition to other bombs that Killer Queen activates, and it'll chase down anything with a heat signature, exploding that target. And it will just keep going around to hotter and hotter things, exploding them until it reaches a human being. Which, I mean, come on, by itself is already pretty evil. Oh, and speaking of which, there it goes. What is it chasing down? Oh, of course. Found the hottest thing around, the subscribe button under this video, so go ahead and click it, Sheer Heart Attack, because it'll help support the channel. Ow. Oh, okay, no need to explode in my face. But even with that in mind, I was still hesitant to choose Killer Queen over some of the other stand powers, so that's why I went back and read exactly how its 3rd most powerful ability actually works, because it gets a little bit complicated, and in that moment I actually realized that Killer Queen was, after all, perfect. Because its ultimate move is 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗘, a bomb that destroys time itself, and it's a power that will make Dante absolutely invincible.
His power is guaranteed to blow their minds anytime.
Now, I gotta be honest, Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka of JoJo's, might just be one of the most confusing writers on the planet, which, you know, really says something since we have people like Jujutsu Kaisen's Gege Akutami, whose stuff is also really complicated. And if you're a fan of the series JoJo, you probably realize why I had to spend hours losing my mind reading up on all of these weird stand abilities in detail. So I'm just gonna try my best to describe 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗘 in the simplest way I can, and somehow I will still probably be wrong about it, so please forgive me, fellow JoJo fans. I'm fairly new to the series, and correct me in the comments if I got this wrong. Here goes nothing. To activate 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗘, Killer Queen is planted inside of a target. If this person finds out the stand user's secret, they explode and rewind time for like an hour. Now, in the series, the secret is the identity of the serial killer Yoshikage Kira, and that doesn't have to be the case for Dante here. For him here, it could be anything from the fact that he's from a different world or learning his own middle name. Now, of course, this is a JoJo stand, meaning it's got 3 other more convoluted powers as well that branch off of 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗘 too, but for all intents and purposes and my own sanity, that's kind of how it works. And so with all of that said and done, let me explain why I chose this power and the one reason it's so broken in the hands of an arc villain like Dante here. You see, all Dante has to do to never die, literally, is just record a video of himself telling the viewer his own secrets. Then all he has to do is kidnap someone, lock them in a room, and then keep them alive there. I mean, this is basically a piece of cake thanks to his demon slime powers and Yakuza connections, and after this is done, he then plants the stand inside of this target, and if he ever comes close to death, he simply remotely activates the video, showing it to the target. This will then activate 𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗘, rewinding time and preventing him from ever dying. And let me just say, yes, in true JoJo fashion, I did craft the most specific way to use this power as efficiently as possible, and yes, I do have a headache after looking into JoJo so much, but can't be helped. So to make up for that, let's now focus on a thankfully much simpler power. A power that will help Dante defeat all of the gods, steal divine weapons, and become a man stronger than the universe itself, because he needs a little buddy to help him conquer the universe. I hope you agree with me on this, but I think that every good character needs a even better sidekick, in my opinion. I mean, at least for me, the scariest villains are the ones with friends because it means that they have some level of influence. Plus, any anime fan will tell you the strongest power in the universe is, of course, the power of friendship. So I thought really long and hard about what demonic pal would be the best here. Would it be the 10 Tails from Naruto, but that thing looks really ugly? Or maybe someone like Gigento Makia from My Hero Academia. Also kind of ugly. Nothing seems super right here, and I was actually kind of getting frustrated thinking about this. I mean, let me just say, I was getting really frustrated and like nothing seemed right, and then I looked down at my fists like this, and I remembered the ultimate Pokemon, I mean the ultimate Shikigami, because with this treasure, I summon Mahoraga, my boy. All right. Let's face it, Big Raga here is my favorite meme to throw around on this channel, and it's for a really good reason. His power is literally kind of having the most insane potential, and that is only boosted if he's used by the right person. The Divine General over here can adapt to any opponent, developing techniques and skills in order to defeat specifically them. Really, the only catch here is that Mahoraga has to be hit multiple times by the enemy, or wait a while and then watch them, I guess, is also an option, but I actually realized that this is the best case scenario for Dante because of his demon slime body. So let me quickly walk you through why I think that Dante could use this power even better than any jutsu sorcerer ever could, like Megumi or Sukuna here. You see, by using the pocket dimension that's part of his slime stomach, Dante could keep a poor victim's soul inside of his tummy and give them the burden of adaptation. In case you're wondering, that's kind of like the physical price one must pay to use Mahoraga's adaptation, and doing it this way will let Dante take no damage while Mahoraga adapts to the enemy. But there is an even simpler plan, which involves Dante consuming Mahoraga, just straight up gaining all of its powers and then spitting it back out. Now by doing this, Dante could just make an army of Mahoragas with the matter creation power from his slime body as well. I mean, I literally couldn't stop laughing when I kind of realized that Dante with this could become the Divine General while leading an armada of his own Divine Generals. A Mahorarmy? A Fleet Raga? I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to make puns when this dude has such a weird name, but I tried my best. Anyways, I also realized I accidentally made Dante the greatest Pokemon trainer of all time, since he basically gains access to all of the other Shikigami from the 10 Shadows technique as well. But for all intents and purposes here, they're pretty much useless compared to the final Pokemon in his party, Big Raga. So move over, Cynthia, Lance, because Dante here is about to take over the Pokemon League. Most importantly though, this adaptation power is going to be really useful against some of the crazy strong enemies that Dante will still have to beat as he trespasses into the domain of the literal gods.
Spin the wheel, adapt, and conquer. This is the way I shall win.
Speaking of which, I think it's time for him to now make his way over to Universe 7, which is the home universe of Goku and Vegeta according to this universe map here, which I just totally made up, and I hope my editor will come up with something to put behind me here. I don't know. And of course, he goes there to train with the god of destruction himself, Beerus. I think his name is Beerus. I might be wrong. If so, I'm so sorry. Also, if his name is Beerus, like if that's how you pronounce it, best name ever. That's the type of hero I want to be. Beerus. Which, now that I've said his name out loud for the first time ever, I kind of also realize he's the second evil purple cat in this video who actually has more in common with Killer Queen than I previously thought. They're both cats, they both look scary, and they both use the overwhelming power of energy bombs to erase weak and pathetic scum from this world. Sorry, I got a little bit carried away with this one. Anyhow, Beerus is going to teach Dante how to use the overwhelming powers of Hakai.
I require nothing less than pure destruction.
Okay, when I was drafting up these powers that Dante could use, I realized that he probably needed a really generic power system to utilize as well. Something that he could boost his stats and his other abilities with as well. So instead of normal Ki, Nen, or Chakra, I'm having Dante skip straight to the top by giving him the power of Hakai to erase anything that he touches. This purple energy of the destroyer gods can literally erase most things just straight from existence, unless, you know, they have their own godly aura. So if Dante doesn't want to consume something, he can now just erase it from existence, and he can also surround himself in a destructive aura to protect himself, ironically, launch it out as beams or energy blasts, and even shape his Hakai into energy weapons as well, which is pretty busted. Yes, it's a pretty simple power, but that's okay, because when I was thinking about it, I realized that not every broken power needs to be ultra complicated or confusing like Killer Queen or Mahoraga. Sometimes the most terrifying power is just straight up some good, clean murder. This power even works on ghosts and spirits for some reason, which actually might be coming in really useful when he runs into the next arc villain of this story, Yhwach. No, shh. Don't worry about it, Bleach fans. I'm not that dumb. I do know that the Quincy, Yhwach's clan, are not Shinigami. I know that much. They aren't ghosts, they are human, and that is exactly why Dante's ghost-killing powers are actually ironically important here. You see, Yhwach wants to destroy the Hollow and the Shinigami using his ultimate move, the Almighty. That way, he can become the world's most evil Ghostbuster, and Dante needs the Almighty to become the greatest villain to ever do it, and so instead of fighting against Yhwach to claim his power, Dante is actually going to team up with him. He'll simply use his Hakai energy to destroy the Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, and then in return, Yhwach will let him copy the Almighty for free. And yes, that does mean that he's going to swallow him peacefully with his consent. What a nice guy. Unfortunately for Ichigo and his pals, the evil powers of friendship also know no mercy. Now, admittedly, part of me also just wanted to include him because I wanted an excuse to include a fellow German person in this video somehow. I don't often get to include them in videos, so, you know, I'll take the chances when I see them. Anyways, Dante, let's see what your special eyeballs here can do. Using the Almighty, Dante can now see infinite futures and then just decide which one he wants to make a reality. Essentially, he gets all the options and then chooses which path the universe should follow. Now, this power combined with Killer Queen will basically let him avoid any and all possible enemies. Like, these two abilities are like a match made in heaven or I guess in hell.
I am the Almighty, and the future is my design.
But come to think of it, the power of the Almighty is actually way more simple than people make it out to be, which I realized is probably pretty fair because when I went to reread Bleach just for this video, and another one coming out soon, I realized that Kubo makes things so much harder to understand than he actually needs to. Like, these powers aren't that complicated, and the way he describes them just makes them seem that way. Luckily though, the next few series I need to talk about are way easier to understand. I'm talking about Evangelion and Fate, the, you know, least complicated series when it comes to lore and official releases. Now, what do these two very simple shows actually have in common? Not that much really, but they both do contain god-slaying weapons, and that is all what matters to my boy Dante here. So what weapon did you steal from Evangelion, you say? In my opinion, there is a few insane and good options here. The most obvious answer is of course an Eva mech, but giving Dante a dead mom is a little bit too sad, even for me, I gotta admit. Plus, that's totally a main character trope, not that of a villain, right? So I thought maybe instead I could give him the divine bow, Azumaterasu, since it can destroy massive chunks of the moon itself. But we're talking universe, and the moon's just not quite strong enough, not cutting it, so you know what? Instead, I went with the classic, the Spear of Longinus, a spear worthy of the god slayer Dante Melis. Now this two-pronged spear here, which I just learned is called a bident as opposed to a trident because it's 2 instead of 3. This is capable of dealing ungodly amounts of damage to the celestial angels in Evangelion. It actually got the power to pierce their very impressive AT defense fields, and long story short, this thing just rips through enemies unlike any other weapon in that specific anime universe. And since this thing is capable of defeating advanced alien races like the first ancestral race, and we do know that most anime gods are just random aliens basically, it's the perfect first weapon for Dante to have as well.
This is the spear that shall pierce the heavens.
Oh yeah, also quick side note here, when I was doing research, I kind of realized that this weapon is actually way cooler than I remembered it to. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Bible studying for a different video on a different channel, and thanks to that research, I actually learned that the name Longinus is the name given to the Roman soldier who stabbed Jesus on the cross. That means that this spear is not only an anime god slayer, but also a literal biblical god slayer as well. Also, I mean, come on, I mean, the Bible would be a great isekai manga as well, even though it's a bit weird maybe. So when you really think about it, the plot of the Bible is pretty much my Lord and Savior was reborn as a carpenter in another world. But anyways, enough about the greatest manga that isn't ever gonna get a release. Back to Evangelion, the greatest manga that did get a release. I can hear you all saying now that the Spear of Longinus is too big for a normal person to wield, and yeah, you're right, but I don't really care because this is a video about making a super strong villain in anime, and I can control the rules, so we can just get some shrinking powers, like, boom, look, what? I made the spear smaller, or wait, oh, that doesn't work for you? Fine. Boom! Now Dante is really big instead. See, it doesn't really matter. I can make up the... He's got the spear. Let's just move on and get him the second weapon. For that, I wanted to take us to a world that I rarely talk about ever on this channel, but I knew that if I was going to give Dante a weapon capable of killing a god, I'd finally have an excuse to talk about one of my favorite villains in all of anime and manga, one of the big baddies from Fate, my man, my bling bling gold man, Gilgamesh. Now, if I really wanted to be tactical here, I'd probably give Dante Gilgamesh's secret weapon Enkidu, but with Killer Queen, Conqueror's Haki, and the Almighty, he's got kind of plenty of ways to restrict a god's movement or manipulate fate, so instead I'm actually giving him what I believe to be one of the most broken weapons in all of anime, which is Iya, the Sword of Rupture.
Now, this is a weapon fit for a god. How shall I use it?
This blade actually contains the divine power of the original god and has the power to split heaven and earth itself. Goes well with the Conqueror's Haki too. Now, the sword itself is an echo of a long-lost era before life itself existed, and well, it looks pretty sick as hell if you ask me. This thing causes mortal beings to question their very existence when they look at it, and that's just a pretty broken passive ability. Its actual ultimate move, Enuma Elish, can attack everything in sight with a single attack. It does that by just ripping straight through space and time and pierces the very concept of nature of existence itself in order to attack its enemies, which is just a really badass sentence to say. So yeah, that's why I chose this weapon for Dante. This thing is just stupid levels of broken, and it is exactly what he needs to conquer the multiverse, I think. Speaking of which, Dante, I think you captured someone's attention because, look, it's a anti-spiral from Gurren Lagann, a godlike multiversal being hell-bent on destroying any creature who harnesses the power of evolution and change, very much like my boy Dante here. So, what do you think? Do you have enough power to defeat this thing, Dante?
I am coming for you, feeble gods.
The answer is yes, and once he steals its power, Dante will actually transform into a being just beyond existence itself. He will spiral, or I guess technically anti-spiral, into the ultimate concept of destruction. As you can imagine, their battle is greater than the universe itself. Dante uses his stand and the Almighty to just manipulate fate over and over and keep himself alive long enough for Mahoraga to finally adapt to this universe-defying creature, which actually, as you can imagine, takes a while. But now that his plan is in motion, Dante goes on the offensive. By using Hakai energy, he can safely rush in while defending against the devastating blows that this eldritch terror sends at him. And once the time is right, Dante uses his Conqueror's Haki to force the anti-spiral to bend the knee to him. He swiftly pierces the heavens and the anti-spiral with the Spear of Longinus, and while it lays there, stabbed through reality itself, Dante decapitates it using the Sword of Rupture and then consumes its cosmic powers with Beelzebub and his demon slime body.
I have become nothing, and thus I have become everything.
So, Dante has now basically gained limitless power here. He can travel through time, grow to sizes larger than the universe, and manipulate space and time. In his multiverse, Dante is now the strongest being alive, which just leaves one enemy left, a faction of beings just beyond logic, beyond existence, beyond even fiction. I'm talking about the God Hand of Berserk. I love this part. These 5 soldiers here serve the idea of evil itself, and they are led by Void. They were once human beings actually, but manifested truly evil power and then transcended their mortal limits. Actually, it's their story which is what actually inspired me when working on Dante's arc for this video, and so I just couldn't imagine his ultimate power being anything other than the actual God Hand itself. All of them are now beings that break fiction itself and will battle it out, but unfortunately for the God Hand, Dante has at this point way more power than them. He's consumed the abilities of the greatest villains from across all of anime, at least in my opinion, and thus, logically speaking, he is more evil than evil itself, whatever that means, which I guess it means that the God Hand serves him now. They do serve evil, and Dante is now the most evil, so all he has to do is eat them up, and boom, there he is. Dante Melis, Supreme Dreadlord of Evil itself. Using his Hakai, Mahoraga, and his weapons, he can manipulate the spatial and physical world, plus with his Haki, he also is a master of the metaphysical worlds as well. With all of this under his belt, he's now omnipotent, a word that means all powerful, and thanks to the Anti-Spiral and Killer Queen, Dante is also omnipresent, a word that means everywhere all at once. And of course with the Almighty, he's also omniscient, a word that means all-seeing. And so with all of these 3 attributes now, Dante is probably comparable to any and all gods across fiction, unless I'm forgetting someone, which if I am, please leave me a comment, but I did try to, include everything that I'm aware of.
I have gone beyond divinity itself. Now bask in my glory.
Regardless, I'm pretty confident that I've done my best, or I guess my worst here with Dante. I mean, he's a god slayer, he likes cats, and he's now the ultimate anime villain. Someone with the power to wipe out a multiverse with a single snap, split the heavens, and break the future. The only question now, of course, is could he be defeated by my ultimate anime main hero, who I named Main Hiro? Well, go check out that video below and tell me what you think, because it'll be a really hard fight, but I do think that Dante here is actually up to the challenge, I think. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in that next video.